The weakness coming out of the Biden White House, they cut defense spending, every year in terms of the president's budget. Their energy policies exude weakness, and the botched withdrawal from Afghanistan emboldened Putin to undertake the invasion of Ukraine. So we got to remember kind of broadly, more strategically, where we are on Ukraine, from my perspective, comes from the weakness of the Biden administration and, the president's inability to actually make the case on Ukraine. He's given 2 speeches on Ukraine in the last 2 years, and all his speeches do is kind of villainize another part of the Congress. He hasn't tried to bring people together.
Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban met in March with Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago, and then he gave an interview. And in that interview, he said that Trump told him he will not give a penny to fund Ukraine, and that is why the war will end, because Ukraine cannot stand on its own feet. We know he's not a fan of President Zelensky, so why do you think he will be persuaded he might win this election?
Yeah. Well, listen, President Trump put out a statement recently where he thought it was important to support Ukraine. He actually also mentioned the Europeans need to do more, and he actually mentioned something, as I just said, that it was very unlikely the war would have started had he still been in the White House. So
this argument over Trump would have made a difference. It didn't make a difference.
Where are we? Is the world a safer place for the United States and our allies today as it was 4 years ago? I think the answer to that is unequivocally. I do think that the Republican Party in the House and in the Senate is still very much the peace through strength party. This is the tradition of Republicans. Peace through strength, this is important because Donald Trump was part of that tradition very much. You remember President Obama cut defense spending by 25% his second term. He gutted readiness. This is what Democrats, presidents do. Biden did it.
No, he says everyone agrees Ukrainian survival and strength should be much more important to Europe than to us, but it's also important to us get moving Europe. The president wants to conserve 30% of U.S. lands as part of his climate change efforts. And he has limited oil and gas drilling in parts of the National Petroleum Reserve to protect polar bears and other things. And then he also blocked a road, crucial to operating a copper and zinc mine. You said this is suicidal and lawless.
It was.
Those are strong words.
Well, it's lawless. He doesn't have the authority to do it, and I could go into all the laws that support me on that. It's, as I say, national security suicide. Look, this president won't sanction the Iranian oil and gas regime. You may have seen Senator Blumenthal and I sent a letter to the president on Friday saying you need to do that, but he has no problem sanctioning Alaska. This administration has issued 63 executive orders and executive actions singularly focused on Alaska to shut our state down. Now that, of course, hurts my constituents, but Margaret, national resources, energy, critical minerals, that's an American strength. This should concern all kinds of Americans. And I'll mention one final thing that I really wanted to highlight here. I've been in the Senate 9 years. I have never seen such a cynical and dishonest display coming out of any presidency. When this president on Friday with Secretary Haaland announced that they did this because the Alaska Native, the indigenous people on the North Slope of Alaska asked them to, they wanted them to. The leaders of the North Slope of Alaska were unanimous in opposition to this. They tried to meet with Secretary Haaland. She wouldn't meet with them. This is a rule that focuses on their lands where they've been living for thousands of years. And then the president says, well, I did it because the indigenous people of Alaska wanted it. That is a lie. And it is a lie. And go see what the indigenous people of Alaska from that part of my state said. They're very upset, and the president was canceling their voices and now stealing their voices. It was really a despicable move.
We have to leave it there because of the break, but I know you could talk with me on this perhaps again in the future.
No.